Hi everyone, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk and thank you very much for joining me. This is what I'll be making today. I'm still using up my retiring supplies and I thought I would do something a little bit different because my roots are really kind of in grungy, altered art, that kind of thing. And I wanted to use Stampin' Up materials to make something that was, that was a little bit different, that was a little bit vintage. So I've made this little plaque and please stay with me and I'll show you how I did it. This is the plaque that I'm going to be decorating up, and what I've done is I've taken some of the packing material that comes with our DSP sets, and it's a thinnish chipboard, and I've run it through my Big Shot using the largest of the straight-edged oval dies, the set that are going to be retiring at the end of this month. And it did cut it, but I had to run it through twice. So I ran it through once in that direction, and then I turned it 90 degrees and I ran it through again. And I cut two of those, and I also cut out one in some of the typeset DSP, which is also retiring at the end of this month. And now I want to age it a bit, and I've got some soft suede ink and a sponge, and I'm just going to very lightly just go in at the edges there and just age this up a bit. And I'm working on my silicone mat, because that way any of the ink that I don't use I can just pick up from the edge of the mat. And I just stuck the layers together with Tombow and left them to dry, and they stuck together quite nicely. Okay, just very lightly I'm going to run all over the top of this, just so that it looks nice and aged and good to go. This is typeset paper, and I've cut it out with the spiral flower die, which is retiring. This is our typeset paper, which is retiring, and I've cut it out with the spiral flower die, which is also retiring. And now I'm going to shape the paper with a flower shaping tool. Now, if you haven't got one like this, then a big oh dear, 3, 2. This is typeset paper, which I've cut out with the spiral flower die. Now, both of these, the paper and the die, they are retiring. Now, I'm using the typeset paper particularly because, for one thing, I want that, that vintage newsprint look. And the other reason I'm using it is because it's a bit thinner than our regular DSP, and it makes it easier to fold and manipulate. And I am just going in there and I'm just shaping those petals. So any kind of ball tool that you have, that that you like doing, even the if you've got a big paintbrush, the end of that, anything like that will work. But if you're a crafter, you've probably got plenty of tools of this nature in your crafty arsenal, as we all do. Because I don't know about you, but I just love crafting tools. So I'm just stretching out the shape here, just really kind of stretching those fibres in that paper. And I'm going to turn it over, And this time I'm just going to be targeting just the top bits of the petals, because I want them to bend the other way. And you know, you can do this quick, or you can, you know, just take your time over it like I'm doing it today. It's entirely up to you. Even if you didn't do this at all and you just coiled up the spiral, you would still have a lovely flower. And I'm really sad that this is retiring, but I'm going to be hanging on to it, and I'm going to be using it in my general crafting, because you know, when you're a Stampin' Up demonstrator, you have the things that you use to demonstrate to people, and you don't really want to be demonstrating things that people can't kind of get hold of. So I suppose today what I'm really demonstrating is the technique. It's the flower shaping. It's the flower shaping technique. Okay, so back in there one more time, just to bring that back around to where I want it. Okay, let's put that out of the way. Right, and now I'm just going to coil up my spiral. So I'm going to start at the thin end, and I'm just going to work my way through. And as I'm coming to the petals, or the lumps, because they will be petals, that I, you know, where I went in with my tool and I kind of bent them over, I'm actually physically bending those so that they turn away, so that they point out like that, not up like that, not up like that. Really did a rude sign there. So as you can see, the petals are folding back as I go along, and I'm going to fast forward this bit. Okay, now I've rolled that up until I'm just at almost at this last blob here, because that's what I'm going to use to stick the rose, the flower, whatever. It looks like a rose to me, and I'm giving it a nice generous blob of my Tombow glue. I'll put the top back on, because that way it will stop the glue from getting from drying in the actual nozzle of the bottle. And believe me, you don't want that. You really don't. So just bringing it all together, and I am just pushing that well down into the sticky, well down into the glue, and I am going to let that sit and dry really well. And that is such a pretty shape of a flower. I really love them. So I've already made two. So I'm going to let my third one dry, and then I'm going to go back and use them on my project. And here are my 3 rolled roses. Now I've coloured 2 of them with this, which is a solution of Blushing Bride refill in alcohol. It's rubbing alcohol in this case, and all I've done is just lightly sprayed over the top of the rose to get some colour on there. Now whoops, I've just sprayed myself. Water is fine, water will work as well, but alcohol dries quicker. So I am going to leave those to sit for a little while, and then they'll be ready to use on our project. I want to put a sentiment on to my little plaque, so I'm going to use this one, You Mean the World to Me, and it's from Going Global. And you're probably aware by now that this set is retiring, and I'm going to use early espresso ink on very vanilla card. So where shall we stamp it? Round about there. Upside down. I really should index my stamp. I really should. Okay, put that on one side. Clean that later on. And I'm going to cut it out with, excuse me, turning my head away, my large oval punch. And again, this is another one of those things that is retiring. So this is very much a goodbye to all of the things that we've loved. Okay, save my scraps for later. Now I want to tone this down a bit, so I've got my finger dauber in the soft suede, and I'm just going around the edges of it very lightly, just so that it antiques up a bit. Right. And I have a couple of the die cut leaves from the Botanical Builders dies, and I'm going to age these up a bit as well. Now this one is in mint macaron, and it's just out of the massive pile of leaves and flowers and stamens and so on and so forth that I cut in one mad cutting session. So, and this one is Pear Pizzazz, and I have already given them a light spray with some sandalwood, which a few drops of sandalwood re-inker, refill in a little spritz of alcohol, but I did that ahead of time because I wanted to leave them time to dry. Okay. Okay, so one other piece of embellishment. This is actually started off as a piece of Whisper White seam binding ribbon, and I've sprayed it with Blushing Bride, re-inker again in alcohol. Water works fine, just alcohol dries quicker, but it was too new looking when it came out, so then I rubbed it on a Sahara Sand ink pad and sprayed water on it and crumpled it up and dried it with a heat tool. So I got this really antique vintage looking piece of seam binding. And again, this is something we're going to be losing it at the end of this season, so if you want it, I don't even know if it's still available, get it quick. But if you've got it in your stash and you're wondering what you're going to do with it, well, you can make it any colour that you like. Okay, so now we need to start assembling. So let me bring back my my plaque, and I'm going to decide where everything is going to go. So first of all, I'm just going to sit here and play a little bit with where I want things to go. And it's okay if it kind of overlaps the edge of the plaque. And yes, I'm kind of liking that. So again, using wet glue, because I think for something like this you really do need to have something with a little bit of, oops, and I'm not even worrying that that's kind of splodged onto the plaque, because I'm going to cover all of that up in just a second. So there we go, and my rolled roses, which have had plenty of time to set and dry, and I have one here, and the last one goes in here. And of course the nice thing about using a wet glue is that you have got wiggle time, and you can play around with things and give them a little bit of chance to get things exactly how you want them, and to let them set up. But it does actually have a reasonably quick grab, the Tombow, so you do have a little bit of time. Okay, so here's my seam binding. I'm going to tie it in a bow. And this is shabby chic. It's very shabby and vintage, and it can be as it really doesn't have to look good, and the kind of more beat up and battered that it looks, the better. And I'm going to just chop off the ends, and I will chop that one off. I know we said beat up and battered looked good, but I want to make sure that, you see, now I can't even see that one, so I'm going to pull that out that way a little bit. Okay, so Tombow glue onto the back of my bow, and pop that into there. And I'm going to trim these a little bit more because that's looking ridiculous. I'm just eyeballing it, just doing what looks good to me. And finally, I've got my sentiment, and I think I'm going to raise that up on a couple of dimensionals. Just a couple of them. And although, they're not companion sets, they're not sold as a suite, but this particular piece of the typeset paper, because it's got a map on it, actually works quite well with that sentiment. And there you go. So there is my finished plaque, and I've got a number of options to display it. I could glue an easel stand onto the back of it, or I could punch a hole in the top with my crocodile and maybe use that leftover seam binding to hang it, to create a hanging loop, or I could just glue a hanging loop onto the back of the plaque. But I don't know, I rather like it, and I hope that you did too. So if you did, please do leave me a like, or leave me a comment. And if you love the tutorial, then please do think about subscribing to my channel, because I do post fairly regularly. And if you want to know more about me and more about Stampin' Up, then there are links underneath this video to my Facebook page, to my blog, and also to my online shop. But for now, I do thank you very much for joining me, and I hope that I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.